War Commander Thexval stood before the massive holographic display in the command center of the Vorthak mothership. His 8 eyes studied the rotating image of Earth, a small blue planet that had occupied his people's attention for exactly 100 years. The planet looked peaceful from space, with swirling white clouds and vast oceans that reminded him of his homeworld before the Great Wars. "Show me the human combat data again," Thexval commanded, his voice echoing through the chamber. The hologram changed to display scenes from human history: soldiers marching in neat lines, tanks rolling across battlefields, and aircraft dropping bombs on targets below. The Vorthak military analysts had spent decades studying these images, cataloging every human weapon and tactic they could find. "The humans fight in predictable patterns," announced Chief Analyst Vexmore, stepping forward. His gray skin gleamed under the artificial lights as he pointed at the display. "They require massive supply lines to function. Cut off their food, fuel, and ammunition, and they become helpless." Thexval nodded, remembering the reports. Human armies needed trucks, trains, and ships to move their equipment. They built huge bases with kitchens, hospitals, and sleeping quarters. When humans went to war, they brought everything with them, like they were moving their entire civilization. "What about their weapons?" asked General Kextall, the head of ground forces. "Primitive projectile weapons that fire small metal pieces," Vexmore replied with confidence. "Their most powerful tanks can barely penetrate our basic armor plating. Their aircraft are slow and clumsy compared to our fighters. We estimate that one Shadow Striker warrior can defeat 50 human soldiers." The Shadow Strikers were the pride of the Vorthak military. Each warrior trained for 20 years in combat, equipped with energy shields that could stop any human weapon, and armed with plasma rifles that could melt through steel. They were 7 feet tall, incredibly strong, and had reflexes twice as fast as any human. Thexval walked to another display showing Earth's major cities. The lights twinkled like stars scattered across the dark continents. "How long will it take to control the planet?" 3 days at most," Vexmore answered without hesitation. "Day 1, we destroy their military bases and government centers. Day 2, we eliminate organized resistance. Day 3, we begin the atmospheric conversion process." The atmospheric conversion was perhaps the most elegant part of their plan. Giant machines would be placed in major population centers, slowly changing Earth's air to match their homeworld's atmosphere. Humans would find it harder and harder to breathe until they simply gave up fighting. "The humans show clear signs of psychological weakness," added Dr. Nextar, the expedition's behavioral expert. "When faced with superior force, they surrender quickly. Look at their history, and whenever a technologically advanced army fights a primitive one, the primitives always lose." Thexval had read those reports too. When Europeans with guns met people with spears, the gun users won. When modern armies fought against less equipped forces, technology always decided the outcome. It seemed like a universal rule of warfare. "There is one concern," Dr. Nexitar continued. "Some humans show unusual resistance when protecting their offspring or territory, but this is limited to small groups and won't affect our overall strategy." The war commander dismissed this worry with a wave of his clawed hand. 50,000 troops will be more than enough. We don't want to waste resources on such a simple conquest." Over the past century, the Vorthak had intercepted thousands of human radio and television broadcasts. They watched human movies about war and studied human military training videos. Everything confirmed their analysis. Humans were weak, disorganized, and dependent on complex support systems. "Sir, what about their nuclear weapons?" asked a junior officer. "Crude fusion devices that they can barely control," Vexmore laughed. "Our shields can absorb nuclear explosions. Besides, humans are too emotional to use such weapons on their own planet. They care too much about their environment and civilian population." Thexval remembered reading about something humans called mutually assured destruction. It was a strategy where countries threatened to destroy each other with nuclear weapons, but nobody actually wanted to use them. This proved that humans were too sentimental to make the hard choices necessary for victory. The hologram switched to show the invasion fleet, 200 ships carrying the most advanced military force in this section of the galaxy. Each ship contained weapons that could level entire cities, shields that could withstand anything humans might throw at them, and troops trained specifically to fight human-style warfare. Have we prepared for their guerrilla tactics? Thexaval asked, remembering some human conflicts where small groups hid in forests and mountains. Already handled, General Kextall replied confidently. Our thermal scanners can detect human body heat from orbit. Our drones can track them anywhere they try to hide. Humans need to eat regularly and sleep for long periods, and they can't hide from us for more than a few days. The Vorthak had studied every human resistance movement they could find in the historical records. They knew humans sometimes continued fighting even after their main armies were defeated. But these resistance groups always needed outside support, safe places to hide, and friendly populations to help them. The invasion plan would eliminate all of these advantages within the first day. What about their individual combat skills? Asked another officer. Laughably poor, Vexmore answered, pulling up training footage of human soldiers. They require months of training to become barely competent. They make noise when they move, they can't see well in the dark, and they panic under pressure. Most importantly, they have no natural weapons, no claws, no armor, no venom. They're completely dependent on their tools. Thexaval watched human soldiers crawling through mud during training exercises. They looked tired, dirty, and uncomfortable. When he compared them to shadow strikers moving silently through any terrain without breaking a sweat, the difference was obvious. Begin the final preparations, Thexaval commanded. In 7 days we move to Earth. Make sure all units understand. This is a simple pacification mission. The humans will surrender quickly once they see our superior technology. As the officers filed out to prepare their forces, Thexaval took one last look at the image of Earth. Soon this little blue planet would join the Vorthak Empire, and its primitive inhabitants would learn their place in the galaxy. It would be the easiest conquest in military history. He had no idea how wrong he was. The morning sun was just beginning to rise over Seoul when Staff Sergeant Jae-ho Kim heard the strange humming sound coming from above. He was leading his squad through a routine urban warfare training exercise in the Gangnam district, teaching new recruits how to move through city streets without being seen. "Sergeant, what's that noise?" asked Private Boram Lee, pointing up at the sky. Jae-ho squinted against the early sunlight and saw them, massive black shapes descending through the clouds like giant teardrops. They were bigger than any aircraft he had ever seen, and they moved with an eerie silence that made his skin crawl. "Those aren't ours," he said, reaching for his radio. "Command, this is Alpha Squad. We have unknown aircraft over Gangnam District. Please advise." Static answered him. The radio was completely dead. The first alien dropship touched down in the middle of a busy intersection, crushing 2 cars underneath its weight. Steam hissed from its hull as a large ramp began to lower. Jae-ho had been a soldier for 15 years, and his instincts were screaming at him that whatever was about to come out of that ship was not friendly. "Everyone take cover," he ordered, pulling his men behind a concrete barrier. "Boram, set up the machine gun. Jinwoo, get me that." AT-4. Private Jinwoo Park handed him the anti-tank rocket launcher without question. The young soldier's hands were shaking, but his eyes were focused and determined. Jae-ho had trained hundreds of recruits, and he could tell which ones would freeze up in real combat. Jinwoo was not one of them. The alien ramp finished lowering, and the first shadow striker stepped out into the Seoul morning. It was 7 feet tall, covered in dark armor that seemed to absorb light, and carrying a weapon that glowed with purple energy. Its helmet had multiple eyepieces that swept back and forth, scanning for threats. Jae-ho didn't hesitate. He had spent his entire military career preparing for moments like this, when split-second decisions meant the difference between life and death. The creature might be alien, but it was carrying a weapon and had just landed uninvited in his city. That made it an enemy. The AT-4 rocket streaked across the intersection and struck the dropship's hull just above the ramp. The explosion was massive, sending pieces of alien metal flying in every direction. The shadow striker that had been emerging was thrown backward into the ship, which immediately began to tilt as internal fires spread through its systems. "Holy shit," whispered Private Lee, watching flames pour out of the alien craft. "Sergeant, I think you just started a war." "No," J-Ho replied, already reloading. "They started it when they landed without permission." More dropships were landing all around the district. J-Ho could see alien soldiers pouring out of them, moving in formation toward the city center. Their energy shields flickered around, them like heat waves, and their plasma weapons hummed with deadly power. "Boram, light them up," J-Ho ordered. Private Lee had set up her machine gun behind an overturned car and began firing at the nearest group of aliens. The bullets struck their energy shields and seemed to disappear, but she kept firing anyway. She had been trained never to give up, never to stop fighting, no matter how hopeless things looked. The aliens seemed confused by her persistence. According to their intelligence reports, humans should have panicked and run when faced with superior technology. Instead, this small human was methodically trying to kill them with primitive weapons that couldn't even penetrate their defenses. What the aliens didn't realize was that Boram had grown up in a rough neighborhood where backing down from a fight meant getting hurt worse later. She had learned early that the only way to deal with bullies was to hit them back twice as hard, regardless of how big they were. Her bullets might not be getting through the shields, but they were creating ripple effects across the energy barriers. Each impact made the shields flicker slightly, and Boram noticed that the flickering was getting worse as she continued firing. "Sergeant," she called out, "their shields are weakening." J-Ho saw it too. The constant impacts from the machine gun were overwhelming the shield generators. It was like trying to hold an umbrella in a hurricane. Eventually, something had to give. A Shadow Striker's shield finally failed just as Boram fired another burst. The bullets tore through the aliens, armor like it was made of paper. Purple blood splashed across the street as the 7-foot warrior collapsed, its plasma rifle spinning away into a storm drain. The other aliens stopped advancing and stared at their fallen comrade. This wasn't supposed to happen. Their shields were designed to stop any human weapon. Their armor was proof against anything these primitives could throw at them. Yet somehow, a small human with an ancient kinetic weapon had just killed one of their elite warriors. "Jinwoo, take that group on the left," J-Ho commanded, pointing at another squad of aliens. "Remember your training. Short bursts, aimed. Shots don't waste ammunition." Private Park nodded and opened fire with his assault rifle. His bullets joined Boram's machine gun fire, creating a crossfire that trapped the aliens in the intersection. More shields began to fail under the sustained barrage. The aliens tried to return fire, but their plasma weapons were designed for long-range precision shooting. They had trained to eliminate human soldiers who would take cover and fire back from fixed positions. Instead, J-Ho's squad was constantly moving, using every piece of debris and abandoned car as temporary shelter. "These humans fight like animals," one Shadow Striker reported over the radio to his commander. "They show no fear of our superior technology. They attack when they should retreat." War Commander Thexval, monitoring the battle from his orbiting ship, couldn't believe what he was seeing. According to the plan, human military forces should have surrendered by now. Instead, they were fighting back with desperate fury that his analysts had never predicted. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving similar reports from all landing zones. The humans are not behaving according to our projections." Across Seoul, similar scenes were playing out. Human soldiers, police officers, and even civilians were grabbing whatever weapons they could find and fighting back against the invasion. They weren't winning. The aliens still had superior numbers and technology, but they weren't losing as quickly as expected either. Private Lee's machine gun finally ran out of ammunition. As she reached for a fresh belt, a plasma bolt struck the car she was hiding behind, melting through the metal and forcing her to roll away from the sudden heat. The alien who had fired was advancing on her position, confident that the small human was now helpless. Boram pulled out her sidearm and put 3 bullets center mass into the alien's chest before its shield could recharge. The creature went down hard, its weapon clattering across the pavement. "Reloading!" she called out, grabbing the alien's plasma rifle and trying to figure out how to use it. Sergeant Kim watched his squad adapt to the alien weapons with the same practical efficiency they applied to everything else. They didn't understand the technology, but they understood that the glowing end pointed at the enemy, and the trigger made bad things happen to whoever was on the wrong side of it. Within the first hour of the invasion, the Vorthak had lost over 3,000 troops to what they had classified as minimal resistance. Their carefully planned assault was turning into a bloody street fight with humans who refused to die quietly. Thexvel stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. This was supposed to be the easy part. The news of the alien invasion spread across Earth faster than any military communication system could have managed. Social media, emergency broadcasts, and simple word of mouth carried the message to every corner of the planet within hours. The Vorthak had expected this would create panic and chaos that would make their job easier. Instead, it triggered something they had never seen before in any species they had conquered. In Tokyo, kindergarten teacher Hana Sato was reading a story to her class when the first alien dropships appeared over the city. The children pressed their faces to the windows, excited by the strange flying machines. But Hana had been watching the news on her phone during lunch break. She knew what those ships really were. "Children, we're going to play a special game today," she said calmly, leading her 25 students to the school's basement shelter. "We need to be very quiet, like little mice hiding from cats." The school's emergency supplies included basic first aid materials, cleaning chemicals, and maintenance tools. As Hana listened to the sounds of fighting growing closer, she began mixing household cleaners together. Her father had been a chemistry teacher, and she remembered his lessons about which chemicals became dangerous when combined. When the first shadow striker broke down the basement door 3 hours later, expecting to find terrified civilians, it instead walked into a cloud of chlorine gas that Hana had created using bleach and toilet bowl cleaner. The alien's breathing apparatus wasn't designed to filter out Earth chemicals. It collapsed, choking, while Hana emerged from behind a table wearing a makeshift gas mask made from wet towels. "Stay back, children," she said softly, picking up the alien's plasma rifle. "Teacher needs to make sure the bad man can't hurt anyone." Halfway around the world, construction worker Dongwoo Park was operating a hydraulic excavator at a building site in Brooklyn when alien ships began landing on the nearby bridge. His first instinct was to run, but then he saw families trapped in cars as alien soldiers advanced down the roadway. Dongwoo had operated heavy machinery for 20 years. He understood hydraulics, leverage, and the basic physics of moving large objects. The excavator wasn't a weapon, but in his hands it became one. He drove the massive machine onto the bridge approach, using its 20-ton weight to crush alien vehicles and its hydraulic arm to swat flying drones out of the sky. When shadow strikers tried to attack him, he scooped up chunks of concrete and hurled them with mechanical precision. The alien's energy shields could stop bullets and plasma bolts, but they couldn't deflect a half-ton piece of rubble moving at 50 miles per hour. "Come on," Dongwoo shouted to the trapped civilians. "Move your cars. I'll hold them off." For 6 hours, one man with a construction machine held an entire alien assault force at the Brooklyn Bridge. Every time the Vorthak tried to advance, Dongwoo knocked them back with devastating efficiency. He treated the battle like just another construction job. Clear the obstacles, protect the worksite, and don't let anyone get hurt on your watch. The aliens had studied human military tactics, but they had never considered what would happen when ordinary people decided to fight back using the tools of everyday life. Across the planet, the pattern repeated with terrifying consistency. In Seoul, Captain Min Ho-yoon of the Korean Navy realized that the alien ships followed predictable flight patterns. They approached slowly, landed in formation, and always tried to establish secure perimeters before advancing. It reminded him of textbook military procedures, the kind of by-the-book approach that worked well against other conventional forces, but became a weakness when facing an enemy who didn't follow the same rules. "Load every container ship we have with explosives," he ordered his crew. "We're going to ram them." "Sir, that's suicide," his first officer protested. "No," Minho replied, studying the radar screen showing alien positions. "Suicide is sitting here waiting for them to kill us. This is just aggressive navigation." The first cargo ship struck an alien landing craft just as it was deploying troops. The explosion was visible from orbit, taking out the dropship and 3 nearby vessels in a chain reaction that the Vorthak engineers had never planned for. Their ships were designed to withstand space combat, not kamikaze attacks by primitive cargo vessels packed with industrial explosives. Within hours of Minho's success, similar attacks were being launched at every major port on Earth. Humans were turning container ships, oil tankers, and even fishing boats into guided missiles. The aliens had prepared for naval warfare, but they hadn't expected humans to treat their entire merchant fleet as disposable ammunition. The Vorthak's carefully planned psychological warfare campaign was also failing spectacularly. Instead of breaking human morale, news of the invasion was creating what military psychologists would later call the largest combat high in human history. People who had never held a weapon were grabbing kitchen knives and fighting alien soldiers, hand to hand. Teenagers were building improvised explosives from instructions they found on the internet. Office workers were coordinating resistance activities through social media platforms that the aliens didn't even know existed. "This is not normal behavior," Dr. Nextar reported to War Commander Thexval. "Most species show decreased aggression when faced with overwhelming force. These humans are showing increased aggression. They seem to be enjoying the combat." Thexval watched video feeds from the surface battles. Human fighters weren't just resisting, they were laughing. He saw a human soldier reload his weapon while grinning like he was playing a game. He watched a group of civilians cheer when they successfully destroyed an alien vehicle with homemade explosives. "They're treating our invasion like entertainment," Thexval said in disbelief. The truth was even worse than he realized. Humans were sharing videos of successful attacks against alien forces, turning the war into a viral social media phenomenon. People were competing to see who could kill aliens in the most creative ways. The hashtag #alien hunting was trending worldwide. In New York, mechanical engineering student Sujin Han had been studying in the library when the invasion began. Instead of evacuating like the other students, she stayed behind to analyze the wreckage of a crashed alien fighter that had come down in the campus quad. "Interesting," she muttered, probing the ship's hull with a multimeter. "Their energy shields create a resonance frequency. If I can match that frequency with an opposite wave pattern." Within 2 hours, Sujin had rigged the university's sound system to generate specific low-frequency vibrations. When she tested it on pieces of alien technology, the results were immediate and devastating. The sound waves passed right through the energy shields and created destructive interference patterns in the alien equipment. "Hey everyone," she posted on social media, along with detailed instructions. "Turns out alien shields can't stop bass frequencies. Here's how to build a sonic weapon using any decent speaker system." The post went viral in minutes. Soon, humans everywhere were using everything from car stereos to concert sound systems as weapons against the invading forces. The aliens found themselves under attack by music festivals, nightclubs, and even ice cream trucks playing weaponized children's songs. By the end of the first day, the Vorthak invasion force had lost over 15,000 troops. Their casualty rate was higher than any military engagement in their species' recorded history. Worse, human resistance was actually increasing as more civilians joined the fight. "Sir," reported General Kextall, "the humans are not behaving like any species we've encountered. They don't seem to understand that they're supposed to lose." Thexval stared at the tactical display showing alien positions across Earth. Red indicators marked destroyed units, and there were far too many of them. The humans were supposed to surrender after seeing superior alien technology. Instead, they were stealing that technology and using it more effectively than his own troops. How is this possible? He wondered aloud. The answer was simple, but the Vorthak couldn't grasp it. They had studied human warfare, but they had never understood human nature. When faced with an impossible challenge, humans didn't give up. They got creative, angry, and dangerously inventive all at the same time. The invasion was only 12 hours old, and the aliens were already starting to lose. By hour 12 of the invasion, the impossible was happening. The Vorthak force that had been expected to conquer Earth in 3 days was being systematically destroyed by a species they had classified as primitive and harmless. Telecommunications. Technician Kyung-Soo Lim was troubleshooting cell phone tower problems in Busan when he noticed something strange. Every time an alien atmospheric processor came online, his equipment detected massive electromagnetic interference. The alien machines were broadcasting on frequencies that disrupted human communication networks. "Wait a minute," Kyung-Soo said, to himself staring at his spectrum analyzer. "If I can detect them, I can track them." Within an hour, he had created a smartphone app that could triangulate the position of any alien atmospheric processor within a 50-kilometer radius. He uploaded it to every app store he could access, along with a simple message. "Find the alien air poisoners. GPS coordinates included, kill them all." The app went viral faster than any game or social media platform in history. Suddenly, millions of humans had real-time targeting information for the most critical alien infrastructure. The processors, which were supposed to operate safely behind alien defense lines, found themselves under constant attack by civilians who appeared out of nowhere with homemade weapons. In Tokyo, trauma surgeon Yoon-ji Park was treating wounded soldiers when the first alien prisoners were brought to her hospital. Instead of just patching up the humans, she began performing detailed examinations of the captured aliens. "Fascinating," she murmured, studying X-rays of alien bone structure. "Their skeletal system has a critical weakness right here at the joint connections. And look at this. Their cardiovascular system can't handle rapid pressure changes." Yoonji had spent 15 years treating human trauma victims. She understood anatomy, physiology, and exactly how living bodies could fail. Now she was applying that knowledge to an entirely new species. Her findings were uploaded to military databases within hours. Soon, human fighters knew exactly where to strike alien bodies for maximum damage. More importantly, she discovered that common Earth bacteria were lethal to alien immune systems. "Mix hydrogen peroxide with vinegar," she posted on medical forums worldwide. "Spray it on their wounds. Their blood chemistry can't handle the oxidation reaction." Households across Earth began mass-producing biological weapons using ingredients from their kitchen cabinets. The aliens had brought sophisticated biological filters to protect against known Earth pathogens, but they had never considered that humans would weaponize cleaning supplies. The most devastating blow to the alien invasion came from an unexpected source. Computer programmer Woo Jin Choi was hiding in his apartment building's server room when he detected alien communication signals interfering with the building's internet connection. Woo Jin had been programming since he was 12 years old. He understood networks, encryption, and the basic principles of information security. The alien communication system was incredibly advanced, but it still followed logical protocols that could be analyzed and eventually exploited. "Their quantum encryption is impressive," he said to himself, typing rapidly on his laptop. "But they're using a centralized command structure. If I can get into their main network..." It took him 6 hours of continuous work, surviving on energy, drinks, and pure determination. The alien encryption was unlike anything he had ever seen, but the underlying logic was familiar. Every communication system needed handshake protocols, authentication procedures, and error correction methods. The breakthrough came when Woo Jin realized that the aliens were using their own biological signatures as encryption keys. It was brilliant. Security, unless someone figured out how to fake alien biomarkers using data from captured prisoners. "Got you," he whispered, as his homemade virus infiltrated the Vorthak communication network. The virus was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to destroy the alien systems, it introduced small errors into their navigation and targeting computers. Alien ships began receiving incorrect coordinates for human targets and started shooting at empty fields. Worse, their automated systems began identifying other alien vessels as enemy contacts. Within 2 hours of Woo Jin's hack going live, the alien fleet was firing on itself. Friendly fire incidents cascaded through their formations as confused navigation systems led ships into collision courses and targeting computers locked onto Allied vessels. "Sir," reported the Vorthak communications officer to War Commander Thexval, "our entire network has been compromised. The ships are attacking each other." Thexval watched in horror as his carefully coordinated invasion fleet tore itself apart. Dropships crashed into each other, orbital bombardment platforms targeted. Their own ground forces and navigation errors sent attack craft flying into mountainsides. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our encryption protocols are quantum-level secure." "Somehow, the humans have learned to mimic our biological signatures," the officer replied. "The system thinks their virus commands are coming from legitimate Vorthak sources. Meanwhile, on the ground, human resistance was becoming more organized and effective by the hour. The initial chaos of the invasion was giving way to coordinated counterattacks that used captured alien technology in ways the original designers had never imagined. High school student Jin A. Moon was live streaming from her school in Daegu when alien forces overran the building. Instead of running, she and her classmates barricaded themselves in the chemistry lab and began experimenting with alien equipment they had salvaged from destroyed Shadow Striker armor. "Okay, everyone," Ginny said to her phone camera while her friends worked behind her. "We've figured out how to reverse engineer their energy shields. Turns out they're basically just really advanced electromagnetic field generators." She held up a piece of alien armor that her class had modified with components from their physics lab. "If you wire them backwards and overload the power supply, they become electromagnetic pulse generators instead of shields." The livestream had over 10 million viewers within minutes. Jin A's improvised EMP devices could disable alien equipment from 100 meters away. More importantly, she was teaching other people how to build them using parts that could be found in any high school science lab. "Oh, and here's something really cool," Jin A continued, completely ignoring the sounds of battle outside the classroom. "Their plasma weapons are actually pretty easy to modify. We've turned 3 of them into welding torches for cutting through their ship hulls." Her casual treatment of advanced alien technology horrified the Vorthak forces monitoring human communications. This wasn't military engineering. This was children playing with equipment that had taken their civilization centuries to develop. The psychological impact on the alien forces was devastating. They had been trained to fight against military targets with predictable behavior patterns. Instead, they were facing an entire planet where every civilian was a potential weapons engineer, and every building could be turned into a fortress. Dr. Sung-Ho Kang, a xenobiologist at Seoul National University, was studying captured alien specimens when he made a discovery that changed everything. The Vorthak weren't just technologically advanced, they were also incredibly specialized. Each alien was genetically designed for specific tasks and couldn't adapt to unexpected situations. "They're like insects," he explained in an emergency broadcast to military commanders worldwide. "Individually intelligent but completely dependent on their predetermined roles. A Shadow Striker warrior literally cannot think like a technician or a pilot. They have no improvisation capability." This explained why the aliens were losing so badly. Humans were constantly adapting, improvising, and finding new uses for everything around them. The Vorthak could only follow their training and programming. When a human soldier ran out of ammunition, he picked up rocks, sticks, or alien weapons. When a Shadow Striker's plasma rifle stopped working, it became helpless because it had no training for alternative combat methods. "Target their equipment," Dr. Kang advised. "Take away their tools and they become completely ineffective." By the 18th hour of the invasion, the Vorthak had lost over 30,000 troops, more than half their invasion force. Their atmospheric processors were being destroyed faster than they could deploy them. Their communication network was completely compromised, and their soldiers were being outfought by species they had considered barely intelligent. War Commander Thexval stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The red indicator showing destroyed alien units now outnumbered the green indicator showing operational forces. In less than 24 hours, the most advanced military expedition in Vorthak history had been reduced to a scattered remnant, fighting for survival. "Sir," General Keckstall reported grimly, "I recommend immediate evacuation. We cannot complete the mission." Thexval had conquered 17 worlds during his military career. He had never retreated from a single battle. The idea of fleeing from a planet full of primitives was almost unthinkable. But the humans had done more than just fight back. They had proven that everything the Vorthak thought they knew about warfare was wrong. Technology didn't guarantee victory. Training meant nothing without adaptability. And sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one who didn't know he was supposed to lose. 27 hours after the invasion began, War Commander Thexval transmitted the retreat order that would become the most studied military communication in Vorthak history. "All forces, implement Emergency Protocol 7. His voice crackled across every alien communication channel. "Full evacuation, immediate departure. Earth is hereby classified as a Class X death world. No Vorthak vessel is to approach this system. Without Grand Council authorization." High school student Jinny Moon was still live-streaming from her chemistry lab when she intercepted and translated the message using captured alien communication equipment. Her phone showed over 50 million viewers from around the world. "Did you guys hear that?" she asked her audience, grinning at the camera. "They're calling Earth a death world now. That's actually pretty cool." Behind her, her classmates were modeling alien Shadow Striker armor that they had converted into cosplay outfits for the upcoming school festival. What had been terrifying military equipment just hours earlier was now being treated as fashion accessories by teenagers who had helped defeat an interstellar invasion. The live stream was being monitored by the retreating Vorthak forces. When the alien command staff saw human children playing dress-up with their military hardware, the last remnants of their morale collapsed completely. It was one thing to lose a battle. It was another to be so thoroughly defeated that the enemy turned your weapons into toys. Across the planet, humans were discovering the true scope of their victory. The aliens hadn't just been defeated. They had been completely broken as a fighting force. Of the 50,000 Shadow Striker warriors who had landed on Earth, fewer than 8,000 were still alive, and most of those were hiding in remote locations waiting for pickup by the evacuation fleet. Dr. Sung-Ho Kang was examining the wreckage of a Vorthak command ship that had crashed in the Han River when he made the discovery that would change humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Hidden in the ship's database was the complete galactic classification system used by the Vorthak Empire. "This is incredible," he whispered, reading through files that contained information about thousands of worlds and civilizations. According to this, Earth was classified as a nursery world, a place where primitive species develop slowly and peacefully. The database showed that most intelligent species took millions of years to develop space travel, nuclear weapons, and advanced computing. They grew gradually, following predictable patterns that made them easy to conquer when they finally achieved interstellar capability. Earth was different. Humans had gone from discovering fire to splitting atoms in less than 1,000,000 years, practically overnight by galactic standards. Even worse from the alien perspective, humans had developed all their most dangerous technologies simultaneously. They had nuclear weapons, global communications, advanced chemistry, and computer networks, all at the same time. "We're not supposed to exist," Dr. Kang realized. "From their perspective, we're impossible." The Vorthak had expected to find a species that was either primitively peaceful or advanced, but civilized. Instead, they had encountered something unprecedented in galactic history, a technologically capable species that retained all the aggressive adaptability of its primitive ancestors. Former game designer Tae Young-oh was analyzing the strategic implications of the failed invasion when she understood the true magnitude of what had happened. She had been hired by the Ministry of Defense to help plan Earth's future defensive strategy, and her background in game design gave her a unique perspective on the problem. "They studied us like we were playing by the same rules they were," she explained to the Emergency United Nations Security Council. "But we never agreed to their rules. When they brought chess pieces, we brought a sledgehammer." Tae Young's analysis showed that the Vorthak had made a fundamental error in understanding human nature. They had assumed that technological advancement would make humans more predictable and civilized, like every other species they had encountered. Instead, human technology had simply made human unpredictability more dangerous. "The good news is that this gives us a massive strategic advantage," she continued. "If they can't understand how we think, they can't predict how we'll fight. The bad news is that this applies to every alien civilization we might encounter." The implications were staggering. Earth wasn't just another planet. It was apparently a galactic anomaly. Humans had evolved in a way that made them incomprehensible to other intelligent species. What humans saw as normal behavior appeared to be genuinely alien to actual aliens. Communications expert Kyung-Soo Lim had been monitoring alien evacuation chatter when he discovered something even more disturbing. The Vorthak weren't just retreating from Earth. They were broadcasting warnings to every civilization within 100 light-years of the solar system. "They're telling everyone to avoid us," he reported to military command. The exact translation is, "Apex predator species with technological capability. Extreme caution advised. Consider quarantine protocols." The aliens weren't treating humans as a conquered species, or even as a threat to be eliminated. They were classifying Earth as a natural disaster, something too dangerous to approach, but too unpredictable to fight. Within weeks of the invasion's end, long-range sensors began detecting changes in space traffic patterns around Earth. Trade routes that had passed near the solar system for thousands of years were being rerouted. Scientific expeditions that had been scheduled to study Earth from a safe distance were being canceled. Humanity had won its first interstellar war so decisively that it had accidentally created a quarantine zone around its own planet. Dr. Yoon-ji Park was treating the last wounded humans from the invasion when she received a data packet from the retreating alien fleet. It was a complete medical database containing biological information about every species the Vorthak had ever encountered. "They're giving us their entire xenobiology database," she realized. "This contains genetic information about hundreds of intelligent species." The gift wasn't motivated by generosity. The aliens had realized that if humans ever left Earth, they would need to understand alien biology for everyone's safety. The data was both a peace offering and a warning, a way of saying, "Please don't hurt anyone else the way you hurt us." Tae Young-oh was drafting Earth's new defense doctrine when she came to the conclusion that would define humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. The invasion had proven that humans were not just different from other species. They were so different that normal diplomatic and military assumptions didn't apply. "If they come back, we don't just fight them off," she wrote in her final report. "We follow them home." The statement became the foundation of Earth's new military strategy. Humans would not wait for the next invasion. They would develop interstellar capability as quickly as possible and make contact with alien civilizations on human terms. The psychological impact of this decision rippled through the galaxy faster than any physical signal could travel. Within months, intelligence reports from across Vorthak space confirmed that the mere possibility of human retaliation was changing the political landscape of entire sectors. Species that had been enemies for centuries were signing mutual defense pacts. Trade wars were being resolved overnight. Border disputes that had lasted millennia were being settled through negotiation rather than conflict. Nobody wanted to risk drawing human attention to their region of space. War Commander Thexful, now commanding a refugee fleet instead of an invasion force, made his final report to the Vorthak Grand Council from the edge of civilized space. "The humans are not a species," he concluded. "They are a force of nature. We awakened something that the galaxy is not prepared to handle. I recommend immediate implementation of the Deep Isolation Protocol. We must prevent any further contact between human space and civilized worlds." The Grand Council agreed unanimously. For the first time in their history, the Vorthak Empire began constructing a barrier around an entire star system, not to keep humans in, but to keep them from spreading outward until the galaxy could figure out how to coexist with a species that didn't follow any known rules of intelligent behavior. Back on Earth, Jin-A Moon posted her final video about the invasion. She was wearing the modified Shadow Striker armor that had become her trademark, standing in front of the sole memorial to the human and alien dead. "So that's our first alien invasion," she said to the camera. "Pretty fun, honestly. We're already getting messages from other species asking if we want to be friends instead of enemies." She paused, looking up at the stars that no longer seemed empty and distant. "I think we're going to like having neighbors," she concluded. "We just need to teach them how to play by our rules instead of theirs." The video ended with Jin-A and her friends working on their latest project, a human-designed spacecraft built using reverse-engineered alien technology. They called it the Friendship Express, though the weapon systems they were installing suggested that human definitions of friendship might be different from what the galaxy was used to. Humanity had survived its first contact with an alien civilization. Now they were preparing to make sure that the next contact would happen on their terms, in their way, with their rules. The galaxy would never be the same.